Been excited all morning as we have not talked to him since December of last year, and we have missed him terribly, as have the listeners. 13-3 lifetime regular season record as the voice of our San Francisco 49ers, and excited that he will once again find time in his schedule to join us now each and every Friday at 8:05. The one, the only, Greg Papa. Good morning, Greg.
13-3 back in 2019, and then 2 wins to start 2020.
Yeah.
And then Groundhog's Day happened.
Yeah.
And we've been stuck in Groundhog's Day ever since. So I missed you, Dave. How are you? How are things going there?
You know, they're good. It's I'm sure you're experiencing this too. It's very smoky, very orange. But football's back, and my goodness gracious, it's good to have it back.
Well, the other morning was one of the strangest days, I think, of our collective life. The whole year has been the strangest year of our collective lives. But Ash Wednesday, when the sun never came up, reminded me years ago, for some crazy reason, maybe it was to make money, I decided to go to Anchorage, Alaska for the Great Alaska Shootout.
Oh, wow.
That's how I spend my Thanksgiving. But that time of the year, if you go there in the summertime, they have great stories about people teeing off, playing golf at midnight, and the sun's up like 20 hours of the day or more. But that time of the year, the sun did not come up in Anchorage until 10:30 in the morning. And it went down at like 2:30 in the morning. And when it did come out, it was like what we're experiencing now, just slate gray, or not so much the orange hue we're seeing now. Sure. So that it reminded me of Anchorage, Alaska, being on the other side of the world. But we're persevering. Somehow, sports is getting through this. I'm not always certain it's appropriate to be playing any of these sports, to be honest with you. We've lost, we never really had the proper attention on this virus, and it's still killing people at an alarming rate. And older people are shackled in their homes or losing their lives. It's just terrible. But I understand you got to generate economy and get people back. So football's back. We had a game last night, which further depressed me because had the last 7 minutes and 13 seconds gone differently in Miami, that would have been the 49ers playing that game last night.
Yeah.
Probably against the Green Bay Packers would have been the first game. So, but they're ready. I think despite it all, the wildness of the offseason, the continuity of the roster, and the continuity of the coaching staff, I think they're extremely ready and most prepared to defend their NFC West championship and supremacy of the NFC.
Now, one before we get to the X's and O's and nuts and bolts, I do want to ask. We talked earlier. I think by watching last night, we kind of thought this before. Football may be the most well-suited to be broadcast without fans, artificial crowd noise, camera, at least for television. The camera is on the field, and other than when they mentioned it or cut away, I didn't really notice the lack of fans. But broadcasters have to make adjustments too. So what do you have to do, or what are you going to have to do differently? How are they setting you up for these games?
Well, what you watched last night was the most funded broadcast in the history of American sports. It's Sunday Night Football. So they're not going to spare any expense for that because they have to offset the loss of revenue with no fans in the stands or limited fans in the stands. They did have some at Arrowhead. It was very surprising to me that a lot of them were not socially distancing. I saw tighter coverage in the stands last night than I did from the Houston Texans defense. But when you see a high-quality network show like that with Al Michaels and Collinsworth, and the one odd thing was Michelle Tafoya was in the stands. But beyond that, that's what drives the ship, the billions of dollars they get from network TV. So those shows are going to go off unchanged. And Al and Collinsworth are in the booth, and they take up a booth. They bring their own. It's like they set up a studio when they go on the road. So I don't think that'll change. What you're referring to is the visual of the stands. And I mean, it was odd seeing Arrowhead like that. I went there for 21 years with the Raiders, and you couldn't see an empty seat, and it was entirely different. It reminded me of like when Frank Gans was the coach, or Marv Levy before he went to Buffalo, and they were playing on the artificial turf in the mid to late 70s, and they weren't good anymore, and they would have sparse crowds. But as far as us, the home games will not be any different, except it's going to be weird driving to the stadium on Sunday and not being in traffic.
Yeah.
It's going to be weird going through the entryways and not seeing people and feeling the vibe. I mean, so much of pro football is the pageantry of the game, the stage, the enormity. Baseball's got a day-to-day thing to it, but football's a once a week, this is it. And there's a real element of an edge to game day, which the players have got to bring their own energy. That is something, I've seen players flat in practice, and this is not a practice. You have the teams here, and it'll be more like a controlled scrimmage. So I think but it won't be controlled. It's going to be the violence and mayhem of pro football. But so that'll be odd. We're still figuring out the decibel level. I was talking to Kyle Shanahan yesterday for a long time. It's going to be somewhere between 70 and 75 of just constant noise, not 130 decibels when Nick Bosa and Dee Ford are screaming off the edge, and 10 decibels when Jimmy's telling the crowd to be quiet because he wants to audible or hear the defense's checks. It's just going to be odd. It's going to be constant, annoying noise. Beyond that, it'll be the same. I haven't seen the booth yet, but they sent pictures. They have plexiglass up between Tim and I. I'm not going to be able to have my spotter and my statistician, my two right-hand men in the booth, but that's fine. My statistician, Chris Babcock, will still work remotely from home like he does for me on road games. We'll have our producer, Mike Kohler, and our engineer, Michael Baird, will be behind us. We'll have plexiglass up. I get tested, being around the 49ers. I've been tested like maybe 8 times and 2 out of 3 days last week. So I don't have the virus right now, but you never know, where you could get it. So we'll be safe. The real odd thing, Dave, will be the road games.
Yeah.
And up until, last Wednesday, we were fully prepared to travel with the team for every game. That was the plan. And no other team in the league was going to have their radio crew travel for one reason or another. We were the only ones that were going to do it. We got clearance from John and Kyle, who wanted us to be a part of it. And even going to the 49ers after this first game, Dave, we're going to play New York back-to-back. They got the Jets and Giants.
Yep. And
in between, they're not going to come back to the West Coast. They're going right to the Greenbrier in West Virginia, a nice resort. And I was going to go there because I didn't want to fly commercial back to, from New York back to San Francisco, back to New York. And if I did that, I wouldn't have been allowed to fly home with the team on the charter.
Oh, wow.
Because I would have been exposed to myself. So that would have been 3 cross-country flights in a week. So I would have just stayed in West Virginia with them, and I would have done the radio show there. And we already have prepared how to do it and when to do it and the whole thing. And then the start of last week, the email came down from the league that they were going to cut back on non-players on the charter. It was at 110, and they cut it back to 70. Wow. So, just think about all the coaches that a pro football team has and all the medical people and just the football staff to transport them. Once I heard 70, there's no way. There are people in the 49ers organization, high-ranking people, that are not going to be able to travel. So we're gonna have to adjust. We're not going to travel, and that's going to be odd. I don't know exactly how it's going to work. I was even, in my mind, practicing a little bit, watching the Chiefs and Texans and how do you call it. And you don't see the same on TV that you see live, obviously. But they're going to give us what's called a 9-box, which is 9 different monitors. And I get to every camera that the network TV will bring us, have available, will show us. And then there's what they call an all-29 camera, which is all 22 players on the field plus 7 officials. So we'll see the entire, everything we need to see, everybody moving on the field. So I've never done it before, but we've, John Miller and Dave Fleming and Ken Korak and Vince Cotroneo, they've all had to adjust and do it this way. And we'll figure it out. It's not that big of a deal. There are a lot worse things going on in the world right now than that. So we'll be fine. But the road games will be the major adjustment.
Greg Papa, 49ers play-by-play man, joining us. Greg, let's look ahead to Sunday. Cardinals coming in during training camp. The Niners receiving corps has been pretty beat up. Do you have any insight if we're going to see one or both of Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk this weekend?
No, I don't know. They're still figuring that out. But if they don't, say neither play, which is entirely possible because you're dealing with a hamstring injury in Ayuk, and that's got to be completely healed. And he's a rookie who hasn't practiced in 2.5 weeks. He just became a new father also, so his life is busy right now. And then Debo had a Jones fracture. So they're in this for the long haul. You know, they want to play not only the 16, but 3, maybe 4, come January and February. They want to get back to where they were last year, and that is win that game and win the Super Bowl. So if neither play, they've got enough with the wide receiving core, Kendrick Bourne and Trent Taylor, to be sure. They don't run a lot of 3 wide receiver formations anyway. And I think with the acquisition of Jordan Reed, the former Washington tight end, who's just a stupendous player, what a great route runner. He's a basketball player playing football. His hands are incredible. So I think you're going to see more multi-tight end formations. They like to keep a fullback on the field. So I think they'll be fine. Whether they go 2 backs, 2 tight ends, that'd be 1 wide receiver, or 1 back, 2 tight ends, and 2. I think they'll figure out a way to get it done if neither guy goes. But I don't know right now. Brandon did come back to practice yesterday a little bit, but usually by Thursday you've got to get on the field. Today's a glorified walkthrough. They do a little more than that, but he's a rookie, so it's going to be challenging for his first game. So if they don't have either guy in the game, I think they do have enough to get through this game.
Greg Papa with us. You know, of course, my partner always asks the real football questions, but I get off kilter, and you said something in your previous answer, and you know me, Greg. I obsess on the tiny stuff. So you're going to be calling the game remote, and I'm curious because you've done both. I have wondered about remote game calling. Is it easier overall for radio to call remote because, for lack of a better term, because people aren't watching, they're listening. If you miss something, if you can't see something, you can kind of carry through and not to say fool the listener, but you know what I mean, versus TV where their eyes are on it real time. You've got to keep up in real time, and they're able to kind of check what you're saying constantly. Do you think one would be more difficult than the other?
Well, to be clear, I've never done this. I've never called any sporting event remotely. Jim Kozemar's done it for soccer. Mm-hmm. Dick Enberg told me stories years ago. He used to do UCLA basketball. Sometimes when they go to New York to play, he'd be doing it in L.A. in a studio. John Miller and Dave Fleming have done it on Giants, and it's hard to acclimate. To answer your question, my thought would be that it would be more difficult on radio than TV, because TV, when I do TV, I want to see what the audience is seeing. Mm-hmm. And I very seldom will mention something the audience can't see unless I think it's really important. So I want to see graphics. I want to see the whole visual presentation. Whatever the audience is seeing is what I want to see. I don't want them to see something I can't see and be the only one that didn't see it. So the point is when I've done football on television, I work off the monitor quite a bit. Obviously way more. I don't work off the monitor at all when I'm doing it on radio. I look at the monitor for replays after the play is over. But I will look at the monitor when I'm doing television until the ball is snapped, and then I will look to the field. The issue, I think, Dave, is that's why we're going to get this, what they call this 9 box, and I got to figure out how to train my eyes to watch. I mean, I've trained my eyes to be able to watch just about all 22 guys on the field, and I have special binoculars that do that, and you can't get into watching the ball, and you don't see. But then, how do I look at one monitor over here in the bottom right, and this other monitor up in the top left? As God say, it's like, I don't know. I have no idea. But my one major criticism of network television on football, and they do a stupendous job. Obviously, they have the resources, and it's without question and the NBA does a great job as well. But the presentation of the NFL on TV is the highest level sports broadcasting we've ever had every year. It's been like that forever, going back to Monday Night Football before in the '60s. But the one thing they do is they like the tight, emotional shots, which does me no good at all.
Sure.
So if we were doing the game just off the television screen that you're watching at home, and they give me a tight shot of Jimmy's beautiful eyes, that's I'm sure a good segment of the population would rather see that than see the whole field. But that does me no good. I know how beautiful Jimmy is. I don't need to see his eyes right now. I need to see what his eyes are looking at. Right. What I'm looking for. So it's a whole different thing. So that's the one. Like I was doing while I was watching the game last night, and NBC's it's prime time. It's Sunday night. You got people who love football. You got people that just stumbled onto it because they wanted to watch some other NBC show on Thursday night. Mm-hmm. So how do we hook them?
Right.
So they shoot it differently. Like even it's hard to tell wide receivers, when they go into a slot away from the camera side, exactly who they are, who's the end off each side. I mean, I can see all that when I'm at the stadium. So I don't know. I think it'll be harder on radio. Because you won't be able to see things, and I'll be able to see a safety coming down. If I see Jimmy Ward coming down, or K'Wan Williams, who likes to blitz all the time off the slot, they do that a lot. Am I going to be able to see that? Because I know I see it coming before the snap, and I can call. Here comes K'Wan off the corner, and then boom, there's a sack and a fumble, and it's a big play of the game. Will I be able to see that by the monitors and the different camera angles they're giving me? I don't know. I'm sure there'll be one that'll show that, but how do I train my mind and my eyes to be able to pick that up right away? But you know what? Who cares? It's fine. We're all healthy. It doesn't matter. It's just a football game, and we'll get through it. And if I screw up, it won't be the first time. It won't be the last time, and I'm not going to blame it on where I am. It's just the world we're living in. And, I don't know if I'm happy I'm doing football or disappointed that we're being distracted by sports. I don't know, but it's my job, and I'm going to go to work, so I'm not going to worry about it. But it's going to be something I think we're all going to have to retrain our eyes and mind.
Greg, obviously this weekend, Cardinals coming into town. Kyler Murray gets a huge weapon addition when it comes to DeAndre Hopkins. Do you see that Cardinals offense giving the Niners defense some fits this weekend?
Oh, yeah, they did last year. They did last year. First time we saw them was on a short week, that Halloween game. And the first play of the game, they just signed or picked up Kenyon Drake in a trade, I think, on Monday, and the game was on Thursday. And they popped a 36-yard run. In the first play of the game, they double-teamed DeForest Buckner, and it was on. This is it's a different offense because, like I was saying, the 49er offense is so running back, tight end heavy. This is the opposite. In fact, on their depth chart, I don't know if any other team in football, in pro football, college does it all the time, where they actually list in their starting lineup 3 wide receivers, Hopkins, Christian Kirk, and Larry Fitz. And they'll play 4, which is called 10 personnel in the NFL, which is really unusual. But they got a good tight end they like, and they like Kenyon Drake. So, yeah, they spread you out, and then they will run the ball off the spread, which gives you a lot of problems. People look at air raid and what's going on in college, and Mike Leach kind of got it started, and others, Chip Kelly, and just the spread attack because they want to throw it. Well, Oregon ran the ball a lot, and there's openings when you spread people out. You create gaps, and they can run the ball, and they run everything. They run outside zone, inside zone, power. You don't see teams like the 49ers are predominantly an outside zone, inside zone team with some pulling of Laken Tomlinson, some power here and there. This team, I think of any team I've seen, they do all of it. And then you've got the quarterback live in the run game with the pull option read game. And if I'm them, I wouldn't do a lot of that because you don't want this little guy getting hurt, but he is elusive. He's got a gun for an arm. He doesn't run like Lamar Jackson, but he's a far better thrower. Lamar can pass it down the middle if you pop a tight end, or Hollywood Brown gets behind people, he can loft it. But this guy can throw a backside out to his left and just throw a missile. I did his college game, his first game he played the year he won the Heisman, obviously, because he didn't play much before, and I was just blown away, and I became enthralled with him. I'm not going to say he's Patrick Mahomes. He's different. Mm-hmm. He doesn't quite have that arm, but it's pretty close, and he's a great player. He is a great player. So this offense is going to give the 49ers trouble. Plus, I think they're going to jump into kind of a Chip Kelly and go super fast, where they're going to snap it maybe every 20 seconds. They've been doing a lot of that in training camp, and I think you're going to see that. And that's a way to wear down the 49ers and some of the big defensive linemen, in particular Javon Kinlaw, if they can trap him on the field in his first game and get him sucking air and just go fast and just snap it every 20 seconds. So, yes, and then DeAndre's a hell of a player. If he's not the best wide receiver in football, he's in the top 2 or 3.
Every season, Greg Papa has been the voice of the 49ers. They have won the NFC Championship. Can he keep the streak alive? We'll be talking to him all year long as the 49ers try to march their way back and take care of some unfinished business. You know how happy I am to have you back, Greg. You know how much I look up to you.
You are like so many people in the world right now that are just picking favorable stats off the pile to make their case. Where you didn't mention that I'm 0-1 in Super Bowls.
No.
You didn't mention that at all.
No, that's.
I mean, come on,
Greg. I don't know if you know this, but the way the world works now is we take the statistics that formulate our narrative. Yes,
I'm well aware. I'm well aware.
We appreciate you making the time, and you know how much I thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe, everybody, and we'll have fun.
Yes.
It'll be fun. Football's back, so I'll talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you. That is Greg Papa.
It's the Carmichael Dave Show on Sports 1140 KHTK.